So good evening, everybody, and thanks for joining. I'm just going to give it one more minute to see if we have any other attendees join us, and then we'll get started. Okay. Amanda, are you able to see my screen?
Yep.
Great. Okay. So I think we'll get started. We've got about a dozen participants so far. So again, thank you for joining us. My name is Christina Anderson, and I'm the city planner. We are going to be discussing zoning updates and looking for some street information in a very specific area at the east end of the north side. And so thank you all for joining. So what we're going to do and how this is going to work. This is a different meeting than, let's see. Sorry, my slide didn't advance. There we go. This is a slightly different meeting than we have been running. Those of you who are attending are attendees, and so there's going to be parts of the presentation where we're going to pause, and you have the opportunity to ask questions, I'm going to ask some questions as well for you to give some comments, and then at the end of it, if there's anything else that needs to be discussed, we'll open it up and have the opportunity for everyone to talk. I believe the way that it works is that you can raise your hand and I'll be watching the attendee list. There's also the opportunity to call in if that is easier for you. So bear with me because it's the first time I've done it this way, but we will figure it out. So here's what we're going to talk about tonight. We are going to talk about the area that we're focusing on. We're going to talk a little bit about what is zoning to make sure that we're all on the same page about what zoning can do and what it doesn't do. We're going to talk about how zoning relates to neighborhood plans and the master plan. We're going to talk about what the existing zoning is today and some of the challenges associated with that, and then start to talk about some of the potential updates. And then we'll pause, and if anyone has any questions or comments or wants to talk about their property, we can do so at that time. And then we'll go back and we'll look at the map and talk about streets because we have the opportunity to put into our capital improvements plan, or CIP, which is our up to 5-year budget, a work that needs to be done throughout the area. And we want to make sure that we're prioritizing the right projects in our budget over the next couple of years. So we'll talk about that, and then we'll wrap it up with any other questions that any of the attendees have related to zoning and the north side. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So the areas that are highlighted in yellow are the areas that we're talking about. I think it's important to say, first of all, why we're looking at these areas. So the city is slowly updating its zoning code and map. And it's focused on areas that have neighborhood plans that talk about, the need for updating zoning, and areas that have barriers to either rehabbing existing structures or doing new development and infill. And if the zoning is a hiccup or barrier in that, that's areas we've prioritized for our first rounds of zoning changes. It's important to say that tonight we are not talking specifically about the properties that I just highlighted with the white dash line. These are associated with the Gibson Guitar Project and the hotel and music venue. And so those are not part of this rezoning effort. We are also not going to specifically talk about this parcel that I just highlighted in purple, although I do believe the property owner is one of the attendees tonight, and he may want to talk about it, but it's not included in this effort because he is a couple months ahead of us and has already gone through public hearings at Plan Commission, and will be going to City Commission on Monday night to rezone this long, skinny parcel from manufacturing zoning to Live Work 1 for a mixed-use project that they are planning. So with that, let's talk very briefly about what zoning is. So zoning is a set of rules that talks about how land can be used or developed. It can talk about what uses are allowed and if there are any restrictions associated with those uses based on the parcel or the street or the location. It talks about how the building can be located on the lot, and not just the building, but also things like driveways and parking. And it also can guide building form, things like height, entrance location, windows. On a commercial building, we talk about the ratio between windows to the wall of the building, and we call that transparency. So zoning code can regulate that. Zoning is a power that's given by the state to cities. And really what zoning should do is support the vision, whether it's the strategic vision, the master plan, the neighborhood plan. And the goal is for zoning to be right, because there are a lot of other pieces of the puzzle when you are either developing a new project or even just rehabbing a home. There are a lot of other things to think about. Zoning is kind of the base layer, and we want it to be right so it doesn't serve as a barrier. It doesn't serve as a complication to a project, because all of these other details, property ownership, financing, getting plans, finding contractors to do the work, and once you're up and running, ongoing support for that business or residence, those are things that we want. Those are the things that will take up time. We don't want zoning to do that. I mentioned that zoning should reflect what the vision is for the area. This area, the whole city has the 2025 master plan. The Northside neighborhood specifically has a Northside neighborhood plan, which had 4 strategies, 2 of which can be impacted by zoning. The first one is increasing the number of resident-owned businesses, especially by those by African Americans and low-income residents. And second, preserving existing housing and building new housing to accommodate all residents' needs. And right after the Northside neighborhood plan was approved in 2018, we did a zoning update, not in this area, obviously, but to the south and west in order to remove some obsolete, too intensive zoning to make way for zoning that would support those 2 strategies. So this conversation tonight and this effort is not the first bit of zoning that we've done on the north side, but it's been about 2 years since we last did a zoning review. So let's talk about some of the existing challenges in this area. The vast majority of the area that we're talking about is manufacturing. M1, and I have it outlined in that yellow line, and it's gray. So M1 is a manufacturing district, right? I mean, it allows manufacturing and commercial uses. It does not allow residential units. And it's really intended for larger lots and blocks, and certainly streets. When you think about manufacturing uses, you think about traffic, both employee or truck traffic. And so, the street that it is on is important. And because it is not just on a major street like Patterson, but it actually exists throughout multiple blocks south into the neighborhood, it opens the door to manufacturing uses on smaller lots, smaller blocks, on streets that really aren't meant for heavy industrial traffic. The 2 properties that are not manufacturing that we're going to be talking about as part of this zoning review and update are directly to the east. There are 2 properties on Patterson, just east of Walbridge. Now, they are used for manufacturing purposes. This aerial is a little bit out of date. They actually are used for manufacturing, but are zoned residential mixed use. Residential mixed use is a pretty narrow district that allows residential uses and very limited commercial uses. So where it is, much like where the manufacturing is on the other side of Walbridge, doesn't reflect the existing uses that are there. And it doesn't reflect the fact that Patterson Street, at least Patterson to the east, goes through quite a bit of an industrial area. So it does not reflect what's there or the street type in the same way that the manufacturing doesn't reflect what's there. There's about 75 to 80 manufacturing parcels in the yellow highlighted area. And they break down roughly to be about a third of them are vacant, About a third of them are residential properties, and both owner occupied as well as rental. And the smaller piece, the last third, it's a little bit small, they're not perfectly even, are commercial, active commercial, light production uses. And so for it to be all manufacturing is pretty limiting, and again, does not reflect what's there. So what are some of our options for changing it? Let's start with Live Work 1. This map is a sketch map. This is certainly not set in stone. It's one of the things that we're talking about tonight. You know, the challenge for finding districts for this area that meet there are challenges for finding districts that meet the character and the needs of this area. So, you know, when we look at the area as a whole, we have, you know, industrial uses to the north and to the northeast. We have mixed uses to the south, and mixed use and residential uses to the west. And, you know, so that's the character that surrounds it. And then within the area specifically, we have lots that were clearly divided for residential uses and on narrow streets. And so we have a lot of different contexts that we're trying to manage with our zoning, you know, and the goal is to find districts that remove the barriers to both improving what exists there today as well as new development, and also that are flexible, knowing that this really is a truly mixed use area. So back to some potential districts here. So the first one is Live Work 1. Live Work 1 already exists on the north side. In fact, it exists directly to the south and a little bit to the north of the area that we're talking about. Live Work 1 allows a mix of residential and commercial uses, including single family. And it was created using the existing lots and block sizes on the north side and in some of our other core neighborhoods. So it's meant to support development that is of the right size and scale to the neighborhood. And I'm, you know, in trying to figure out how that fits into this area, you know, looking at the blocks that are already divided into residential lots and lots that are not fronting, you know, Patterson and some of the other major roads to the south. In looking, our second district that might work for this area is Live Work 2. And I have, you know, tentatively put Live Work 2 over the blocks that front Patterson, which is the major street in the area. The lots that are the biggest, you know, that are full blocks, and lots that are either currently used for intensive commercial or, you know, storage or light production uses. So Live Work 2, like Live Work 1, allows a wide, flexible list of uses, including residential, but it does not allow single-family homes. It looks at duplexes and multi-unit buildings being mixed in with the commercial uses. Like Live Work 1, it was created using our existing lot structure. So again, in terms of its the size and scale of development that can happen in Live Work 2 fits with the area that we are talking about. And Live Work 2 zoning already exists in this area directly to the south and to the west. And then the last part of our puzzle is our 2 parcels east of Walbridge on Patterson that are currently used for manufacturing but are zoned for residential mixed use. It would be the proposal to zone those manufacturing. They are on Patterson. They allow access with the other manufacturing uses in the area. It makes sense for for consolidation of that type of use. This change would reflect not only what's there now, but what was in the future land use plan in the 2025 master plan. And so again, this is not at all set in stone. This is just starting to lay out the districts that we have kind of in our on the books that would allow maximum flexibility and allow for development that reflects the character of the area and that allow for the existing residential structures to be conforming and allowed to be improved and lived in, for many years to come. So with that, I know that was a lot of information, but I'm going to pause here because I want to give anyone who is listening the opportunity to ask a question or give a comment specifically on the area or the potential zoning. And let me also say that this is not your only opportunity to give feedback. If you need some additional time to review, all this information is going to be on our website, and I'll give that information at the end. I'm also going to be attending an NACD meeting in May and the Northside Cultural Business District Authority meeting later this week. So there'll be lots of opportunities, both virtual meetings, doing things alone online, looking at stuff and sending comments, as well as hopefully an in-person meeting in May where you have opportunities to provide comment. So of any of the attendees that are on right now, if you do have a question or comment, you can raise your hand if you're in Zoom. And if you're on the phone, you can hit *9. So I'll pause for just a second to see if anybody has any comments or questions or wants to talk about their property. Okay, I see one, so let's see if I can make this work. Mr. Bogan.
Good evening.
Thank you. It worked.
Okay, there we go. I'm excited I just have a comment. I don't have a question.
Great.
I'm excited about the work, you guys have put in here to help get this area rezoned so that people and residents in this area can now, build or actually have their home, which is there, be in the right zoning district. As the soon-to-be owner of 315 East Frank Street, I'm excited to bring a transformational project to that area. And I look forward to getting to know other neighboring owners in the area. But this is very, very exciting news and great work by our city staff. Thank you.
Thank you. So the 315, the property that Mr. Bogan was just speaking about, is 315 Frank Street, which is right here. And it is the property that was moving a little faster than our process was. And so he went ahead and did his own outreach to the adjacent property owners, went to Plan Commission, and is before the City Commission on Monday for final review and approval of his zoning request to Live Work 1, which again is that mixed use district that allows residential, commercial, as well as single family. Does anybody else have any questions or comments at this time? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip to the next map, maybe. Let's see. So we can talk about streets. There we go. So again, I'm hoping that some of our participants can chime in either now or in one of the modes I mentioned at a later date, because we're talking about zoning tonight and land use, and that's very important, right? We want to make sure that it's right, that it's promoting the things that we would like to see for the area. But there's a second piece to the puzzle that is equally as important, and that's the infrastructure that happens around our land uses, right? And so that is streets, sidewalks, street trees, street lighting. And we know that this area has some streets that are certainly in need of some updating. And what I wanted to hear from the group, again, whether it is today or at a one of our future meetings, or by submitting ideas online, if we had to prioritize which streets we put into the budget first in this area, what are those? And is there a common route that you see people walking through in this area? And if so, we'd like to know that so we can make sure that we have the right pedestrian infrastructure, sidewalks, crosswalks in the area. And then any other comments regarding lighting and trees. So if you are able to, I have the map here and I can take notes. And again, we'll have this map up online and you can actually put pins in places where you think the priority improvement would be. But does anybody have any thoughts on infrastructure improvements in this area that they'd like to state now? Okay, so like I said, we're going to keep asking this question because we can't put everything into the budget at once, and we want to make sure that we're prioritizing the streets that need it the most, get the most use, serve the most pedestrian traffic. So as you have an opportunity, take a look around the area and please let us know what your priorities are so we can work it into our capital improvements plan to make sure that the public investment is being matched by what is happening on people's private lots. So let's talk about what happens now. And this is probably going to be a very quick meeting if there aren't a whole lot of other comments for us to talk about. So there's a couple of next steps here. So about a month ago, staff walked around to the residences in the area and dropped off flyers talking about this meeting and the project in general. We also mailed that flyer to all the property owners. So the residential properties kind of got it twice. We're here tonight and we will be, this session is being recorded and will be put up online and we can share it. And you'll be able to share it if you want neighbors to view it. And on this Thursday, I will be talking about this project again at the Northside Cultural Business District Authority meeting. And that is a Zoom meeting and I am on the agenda. They have other business to discuss, but I'll be presenting a lot of the same information again and seeking feedback. On May 18th at the NACD monthly meeting, which will, fingers crossed, be in person outside. I'll be there and we'll be able to talk about this and we can look at the street maps in person together to help pick some priority areas. And then on June 3rd, we'll be presenting this to the Plan Commission to have them review through a public hearing the zoning changes in this area. So the ways that you can continue to participate and watch the ongoings or give your input, ask questions, there are 3 ways in addition to any of the meetings that I just noted. The first is on imaginekalamazoo.com on the projects page. We have a Northside zoning phase 2 site and there'll be maps as we start to finalize them after we get some more comments. There'll be the opportunity to provide your thoughts on the zoning changes, as well as I mentioned before, look at a map and put pins in places where there are priority streets or intersections or sidewalks for updating. You are always welcome to email me if you have questions or comments. I received a few today from folks that couldn't attend but had questions. My email is my last name, which is Anderson C, and my first initial C at kalamazooCity.org. And we also have an engagement hotline, and that is 269-226-6524. And this is, it's an opportunity you can call anytime. We just ask that you please state the name of the project at the beginning of your voicemail. You can leave us a voicemail and we watch that regularly. And it's a way to give feedback over the phone if that is the easiest method for you. So with that, I don't have any other new information to present, but I wanted to open it up one more time to our attendees to see if anyone had any questions or comments about anything that we talked about tonight. Okay, well, with that, I'm going to allow you all to hopefully spend a little bit of time outside on this lovely evening. And again, please don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions or comments for me on this zoning change or any of the street work. So with that, thank you very much and have a good evening.